Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the buffed Bubble variant of the Jellicent in the Holiday Cup. This Pokemon is actually really cool and very hidden kinda, because currently on PvPoke the preferred moveset is Hex for the Holiday Cup for whatever reason, because I feel like Bubble is by far the better fast move to go for, and you're going to see it in today's video as well. Every single battle that I did with this team is going to be in here, so there's nothing cut out or anything like this. You're going to see every single one, so also if you battled me and you encountered this team, you're going to see yourself in this video today. But otherwise, we're going to take a look here at the team a little bit. We're going to have Lurantis in the lead, so in general, this is going to be an insane anti-meta line. I think I encountered maybe one RuneRigus and maybe one Jellicent in total, maybe also with other teams that you're not going to see today, but most likely tomorrow. But yeah, I didn't see a single Lurantis, I think, and also like my backline is super rare, so it's basically a complete anti-meta line for this current meta here, which is kind of cool. I would imagine that Jellicent with Bubble is going to become like most likely common meta as well after this video, and after like people are going to realize how good Bubble is on this Pokemon, especially after the buff this season. As we're going to see already, one of the favorable matchups is going to be Vigoroth, and here we see also why. We're going to do very nice neutral damage with both Bubble as well as Surf against them, and they don't do any damage really against us. And next opponent, let's see what they're going to run. We're going to have the Lurantis against a Girafarig in the lead. This is actually a little bit of a trickier one, because while the opponent is going to be mainly a Psychic type, they're also part Normal type. And if you saw my recent videos for the last cup that we had available around Oranguru, those Pokemon have the exact same typing, which is a really good defensive typing, as you're going to have the coverage against Ghost-type Pokemon, and we have two Ghost types in the back. So, we're going to still be able to go into our RuneRigus, which is gonna be our main safe swap for this team. So, if you're going to encounter a bad lead, usually you go into RuneRigus, and we're going to encounter here the one Pokemon that might be a little bit tricky and where you can also change the team up a little bit, which is going to be Altaria. It is not unbeatable, and I think I won against most of the Altaria that I actually encountered, maybe also against this one. We're going to have to see for that, but it's definitely a little bit of a trickier one. RuneRigus is actually fairly decent against it, and Jellicent with Energy is fairly decent against it, but otherwise it might be a little bit of a trickier one. Here we're going to see a Skeledurge, so we're most likely not going to be able to win this, because a Shadow Ball should most likely knock us out. But if you want to have some coverage for those Altaria, flying types, whatever, you could also argue for going for the Abomasnow instead of the Lurantis in the lead, which might help you out with that. The one issue though for this one would be that you're going to have a weakness against some other Pokemon, which would be, for example, the Obstagoon, which would core break you basically for the entire team, which might be a little bit tricky. But I feel like Abomasnow might be even a little bit better, as we see here also some Trevenants coming in, and Trevenant would also be a Pokemon that Abomasnow would be way better against than, for example, this team here. But yeah, I would maybe actually recommend you to go for the Abomasnow, just to have some coverage for Trevenant, for other Grass-type Pokemon, also something, for example, against the Chestnut, which might be a little bit of a trickier one. Abomasnow most likely fixes more of the issues than Lurantis really gonna give you, of course. Definitely a little bit of a different Pokemon, but I feel like Abomasnow might be an option for you. I feel like even the normal Abomasnow might be decent, because it has a little bit more bulk compared to the Shadow variant, but it depends on what you really have and what you want to use. But here still, even though Trevenant is a little bit of an issue, you can still deal with it. As you're going to see here, we're going to get the shield with the Leaf Blade. We can still go for another Leaf Blade afterwards, and Lurantis attack stat is kind of high, so we're going to see here already Leaf Blade Stab, which is one of the strongest moves in the game right now anyway. Like, honestly, like the strongest move if you just look at it, is just so good as the opponent decides to forfeit here with their Vigoroth. Next opponent coming in here, we're going to see already a great lead with the Lantern in the lead, which is going to be even better for us, because they're going to swap out into the Vigoroth. I hope that they're actually going to use a shield here, but sadly they do not, and so I'm going to be forced to swap out into the Jellicent. Gonna go for the full farm down with Bubble. I can take any kind of charge move. They're gonna even go for the Body Slam for whatever reason. I think they're gonna go for another one afterwards. Again, Rock Slide is going to be way better for you, but it does not really matter for us. At this point, they're going to go back into the Lantern, but what I can do now is, which is kind of cool about Jellicent as well, I can punish them a little bit for it, as Shadow Ball is doing a ton of damage. And as you can see, the opponent is running Water Gun, which is going to be resisted by our Jellicent as well, allowing us to have a great matchup here, getting a shield advantage as well, plus switch advantage, which is just wild. And as you can see, they're going to have the Obstagoon in the back, and we can deal with that. We can just let like Shields move up here. Hopefully they don't boost at all. That would be a little bit tricky here, but of course they're going to boost immediately. But we can go for two superpowers, and the opponent is not at a move yet. We're going to see him P-tie on to the next turn, and as you can see here, the superpower is coming through, gonna get the knockout, and we can easily win this game here, as we can swap out and the opponent decides to forfeit here. And next opponent, let's see what they're going to run. Again, this team was really nice for me, definitely something that I can recommend you, but there are some a little bit of issues as well. For example, one issue is going to be the Wigglytuff, at least that's what you thought, but it's actually not that bad for you. The only kind of sad thing about this one, because it's kind of an ABB style line, you kind of need to keep your lead alive, and so I have to swap out into my Runerigus eventually. Runerigus is bad for the Wigglytuff matchup, but with Bubble and Surf, actually Jellicent is really decent for it, and here we see the opponent swapping out, I think into the Arctibax, which is going to be okay for us. Maybe should have actually went for the bait first, but it's going to be fine. I can still go for a Centum afterwards, but I don't think it's going to knock them out. But here comes the kind of benefit of the Lurantis here. One turn fast moves can go before a charge moves, which is kind of wild. So here we were able to do some more damage against the opponent to knock them out before they can get off their Dragon Claw, for example. And so we can go for the full farm down with our Jellicent. I decided to use a shield here because I went for the Disarming Voice prior, but it was just the Icy Wind this time, which is kind of awkward. But they're going to have the Alolan Sandslash in the bag, and as you can see, the Shadow Ball damage is going to add up, and 2 Shadow Balls is all it takes to knock them out, and so it's going to be a very easy game, and Jellicent again with Bubble is just going to be able to sweep endgame. Let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to see here Lurantis against Aurorus. This might be an interesting matchup for us. We're going to be able to win this maybe, but maybe not. The opponent going to have super effective damage against us. We're going to have super effective or double super effective damage against the opponent. So this is going to be an interesting matchup here. Aurorus is something that I didn't really expect too much. I don't think it's a great Pokemon anyway, because you're going to die completely against a Lantern plus the Vigoroth, which are the 2 most common Pokemon. But yeah, again, against a grass type, it might be a decent Pokemon for it to use. We will see here also the Charizard swapping in, going for a Blast Burn. Wish I was not going for the charge move here yet, but the opponent decides to use a shield anyway, so I'm going to be fine with that. I can just go ahead, go for another Surf, but they decide to go for their own charge move before. That's going to be just the Dragon Claw though, and I can swap out into my Runerigus, which can go for the full farm down, giving us around like 2 fast moves advantage, actually 3, which is kind of nice, and I think this is just going to be a Dragon Claw, so it doesn't do too much damage either. So, let's see what's coming in. It is going to be a Superior. I have to land the Shadow Ball, but the opponent makes a great play here. Catching the move is something that I kind of have to learn and just wait out a turn, I guess. But, yeah, again, now the game is kind of over. I had to hit the Shadow Ball against the opponent's Superior. Otherwise, I didn't have a chance, really, because I needed the damage for the Superpower to knock them out. But sadly, it's not going to work, so let's move on to the next game. The next opponent coming in, we're going to have the Lurantis against the Vigoroth again. This is going to be a great matchup for us, as we can swap out here. We're going to not really care about the charge moves in the back, and Runerigus is actually a really solid face-up for this current meta. I thought actually of going for the Rock move on this Pokemon as well, which is a Rock Tomb, but I decided against it because Shadow Ball is just giving you a little bit better coverage and just going to give you like this stab move that's going to hit pretty hard, as you're going to see here as well. Goodbye Charizard, allowing us to realign. Plus, we're going to still have a ton of health left, and we're going to see the Credilli in the back, which we can now avoid with our Jellicent, and so the opponent is deciding to forfeit as well already. I feel like there was still some play for the opponent. I guess like it wasn't actually, there was no play really, but they didn't know what they had in the back yet. But also, speaking of having no play, this team does not have any play at all against Grasshole. Like, it is not going to be possible to win against Grasshole, and here was the one occasion where I actually encountered it in like the 30 battles that I did know for this cup already. Started like one set before, and I only encountered one time at Grasshole, of course with the one team that is going to completely lose against it. So we can still try to go for the full farm down here, which is our best play that we can go for. We can go for the Superpower against the Skarmory. We just had to hope at this point that they don't have a grass type in the bag, and turns out they do, and so we can forfeit. Literally impossible, like literally impossible. It is going to be fine. Next opponent, we're going to have the Obstagoon in the lead. This would be, for example, a Pokemon that would kind of wall you completely if you would have the Obama in the lead. But again, there were other examples already before. But honestly, I have to say Lurantis was a very strong pick for this meta. I definitely enjoyed Lurantis quite a bit. So I would recommend you to try this Pokemon out. Very, very solid, very fast with the charge moves, very hard hitting. Definitely a cool anti-meta Pokemon, breaks apart the meta a little bit. If you saw my video earlier on already about the Chestnut, also can have similar functionality there. If you have a Chestnut, you can use that as well. But here we're going to see as well the opponent going for another charge move there as well. It can overfarm by a little bit. I overfarm by a little bit too much here, I would say. But now I can go up to 2 charge moves, which is kinda nice as well. So I have 2 superpower stored, which is going to be coming in clutch later on, hopefully. We will see the move coming through here, and the opponent is going to have another Dragon plus Flying type Pokemon. So we're going to see again Altaria against us, which is of course not really the ideal matchup, but at least we can realign. I make a mistake here. Should have went most likely for a charge move first with my LilyNiRiain, trying to debuff the opponent's defense, because it would allow me to farm them down with the Jellicent afterwards, but like 1 Surf plus Jellicent then. But it is still going to be okay here, because we're going to be able to survive 2 Night Slashes, so they're going to be forced to go for 3 Night Slashes. And so we're going to get some bubble damage in. They're going to actually get there a little bit faster than I expected. I thought I would still get to a Surf, but they are going to be energy dry at this point. I can overfarm by quite a bit, go for the charge move. This is going to get the knockout for sure. And now it's just basically LilyNiRiain against an Altaria, which already had some damage on it before. And maybe, just maybe, I should have went for the bait here again before, because it would have got the defense drop. But as you can see here, I'm still going to be able to survive a charge move from the opponent. A Moondust is not going to be enough. LilyNiRiain is pretty bulky, and as you can see, we can just go for a charge move here. This is going to get the knockout against the opponent. Sand Tomb is going to be enough, plus some fast moves as well, and we can move on to the next game. Lurantis against Vigoroth. What a nice surprise. We're going to see this lead quite often, but the opponent decides to swap out into the Marowak here. I decided to go a little bit late, honestly, into my Jellicent. I thought of maybe going to my LilyNiRiain instead, but both of them are kinda equally decent. Here we're at least going to be able to resist the fast move, but they're gonna get the defense drop immediately with the Shadow Bone. 20% chance, kinda annoying, because now the Vigoroth going to do more damage against me as well. But I will still get to Surfs, and Surf is going to chunk, honestly, it just chunks a lot against the opponent, as you can just go for another charge move here, the opponent going to use a shield, and I can swap out into the LilyNiRiain, because LilyNiRiain is one of the few Pokemon that are going to be able to resist every single move from the opponent's Vigoroth here. They decide to swap out into the Talonflame. I can overfarm by a lot, allowing me to go for a Shadow Ball, gonna get the shield from the opponent. But not only this, I can also go for another shield by myself, I can go for 2 more fast balls afterwards, and I will be able to just reach another Shadow Ball, which should get the knockout against the opponent's Talonflame as well. So now it's basically just the Vigoroth with a ton of energy, but we still have 3 Pokemon, and they are debuffed, and they're in the red health soon. So yeah, this is looking really good for us, as we can see as well. Bubble damage is just adding up, and so Jellicent is just going to be able to finish up this game again. Jellicent, so good, like honestly, can recommend you this Pokemon so much. It's like so strong in the current meta. As we can move on to the next game. Next opponent coming up, we're going to have another Vigoroth in the lead. What a surprise, what a shocker. You most likely did not expect this one, but I definitely expected this one. But what I didn't expect is a Togetic. Honestly, who thought that this Pokemon would be a good Pokemon for the current meta? Not too sure. Maybe back in the day when Vigoroth didn't have Rock Slide. But interesting one here. I'm still going to respect a potential Dazzling Gleam, and we're going to be able to completely shield this one up, which is kind of nice. 70 energy going down the drain, and we can now knock them out with a Shadow Ball and a few fast moves here, allowing us to now realign our Pokemon. They cannot go into their lead because it would get completely hard-walled. But speaking of getting completely hard-walled, hello Hawlucha. This is going to be a great one for us, because Hawlucha is definitely not going to appreciate the Shadow Ball. And I overfarmed by 1 fast move, which might make the opponent think that I'm not there yet, but I am. And so Hawlucha is gonna go bye-bye, and so that's going to be it for this game as well, and we can move on to the final one. Honestly, I feel like this video felt super fast. Was it the same for you? I feel like it's just because so many battles were kind of fast here today. Like, we have 12 battles in and we don't even get to 15 minutes. Kind of showcasing how nice an anti-meta line is for this kind of meta, right? So, definitely something I can recommend you, this team. Again, Abomasnow might be a little bit better compared to the Lurantis, but it depends on how you can play. Lurantis is definitely a cool Pokemon to play for sure, but this team worked out pretty well. Here again, we're going to see the matchup that we kind of want to seek, which is going to be the Bubble Jellicent against Vigoroth, which is just amazing for you. Honestly, this matchup is just so great. Surf coming through, gonna get the knockout. We have a shield advantage, we have switch advantage, and here was the only Jellicent I was actually able to encounter throughout the 30 games, and honestly, would recommend you to give this Pokemon a try. We see already why, but which is not going to be too great here. The opponent going to have a Venusaur. Venusaur is actually a core breaker for this line. Again, some Pokemon called Abomasnow would fix that issue. But yeah, maybe something that you should adjust for that. It's a little bit tricky here. It's going to be tricky for me to deal with as well. And I made a mistake here as well. I think I would have been able to survive a Frenzy Plant if I didn't go for a charge move before, which would have debuffed my defense. But yeah, I have to deal with it. I still have to try to win this game, but I don't think I'm going to be able to because the Jellicent has so much energy stored, so at least I'm going to lose the final game here against a Bubble Jellicent, which I guess is kind of fitting for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like. Check out the video on the screen as well. Going to be one time the top teams for this meta, as well as the review about Chestnut. So hope you enjoyed this one. See you then. Bye bye.